I'm going to attempt to repair this head. It's a common problem in the figures from the 1970s, both the US and the British versions, well actually all around the world, that the heads come off. And they're put together with a rubber joint that disintegrates over time and they just pop off. The first thing that needs to be done is you need to pull out the center stem from the head. You can generally pry it with a small screwdriver. You have to be careful a little bit because sometimes you can blemish it. There may be other ways to pull it out. That's the way I always pull it out. So the stem goes in here and then you pull it out. Once you have the stem out, very often this piece already broke off completely from the bottom. If it didn't break off from the bottom, you actually need to get rid of it because you need to be able to get inside the chest there. Now I pulled that off. Now we have the original piece that held it together. This was actually up inside the head. It completely broke off and now it's gone and we just leave that alone. People use different material. I use what do you call it? I guess banded elastic screwdriver. And out you go. I haven't done this in a while, but I hope I can remember how to do it. And then you just take a piece and cut it. I usually use a lot more than I really need because it's easier to work with. And then, however, there's a piece of plastic that goes across here that these two halves of the chest were glued together, and there's a peg. So what I'm doing is I'm putting it down past the peg, and now I've got to bring it back up around the peg. In order to do that, I just made a wire with a little hook on it, and I go down inside here, and I wait until I find it and fish it out. Sometimes it comes very, very quickly. Sometimes you have to mess around a little until you can find let me put a little more inside there. There we go. And here comes the elastic. So now I have it wrapped around the peg inside. So then what you do is you want to thread it through the stem that goes inside the head. And you just put this up here through here. And now you have both. But of course now you don't want these to go back down. So what you have to do is you pull really, really tight because you want a nice tight fit. When the head's on there, you want the head to be nice and tight. And you want a big enough knot so that the knot doesn't go through the hole. So you have to do it several times to make it big enough. And there, I'm going to do it a few more times. Still have room. Oh, that's about all the room I have. Then you cut the pieces you don't need. There we go. And voila! You have a head on figure. Now that his head is back on, I'm going to dress the guy. As many of you may know, these vintage rubber suits have a tendency to disintegrate pretty badly. In fact, it's really, really nice when you can find, this one here has already got some brown spots on it, but it's, at least it's not cracked, it's nice and flexible. He used to have one on him, but I had him on display for several years, and over the years it turned very, very brown and cracked. In fact, on his neck you can see where some of it actually, the rubber adhered to his skin. Sometimes actually I've seen them that adhere so badly to the skin that the doll can't be saved. Oh, I shouldn't say doll, sorry, action figure can't be saved. But anyway, one of the things that I noticed on the ones that I had that were the suits had really, really gone bad is that I had not used talcum powder when putting them on. So I don't know if talcum powder helps, but it helps to put them on, and since my previous figures disintegrated not having talcum powder, I'm just going to hope that they give some, I don't know, some protection, some help. I may be fooling myself, but I don't want this one to have the same fate that my last one had. I was very, very happy to find this, and I want it to be preserved for more years to come. There, so put a generous amount. Don't worry about getting it on the outside. It comes off very, very easily. See how nicely it slides? It just goes right up on. I mean, that's just, without talcum powder, sometimes you really have to struggle to get it on. And I was trying to be a purist before, which is why I didn't use talcum powder, but I really should have. It really works much, much better. Mainly you want to get it into the arms, and in this arm here, and just put it all over, and then get rid of the excess. It should go on pretty. He's got big hands. There we go, but it still works. He now has his suit on him. These really were well-made suits, and when you think about it, these were back from, this suit here was from the 70s. But this is like 30 years old, more than 30 years old, this suit. And I'm also going to put talcum powder just at the base of this one. Now these sometimes, oh see, this is already, it started to come together. It started to melt a little bit right here. Oh darn, I hope I'm not going to break it. Oh, let me see if I can pull that apart without breaking it. Because these can stand the test of time a little bit, but they do have their limits. I think it's going to work. Yeah, it is. Okay, good. I got it on him. These have stretched a little bit, and next time I decide to work on a project, I will shorten these straps. For right now, I have a little trick. When the straps that I've stretched out, I actually wrap them around the tank, and it seems to put the tank at a better. There. See, that keeps the tank up where it's supposed to be. See, this one is also stretched out. Let's put that in his mouth. Okay, now I can put his flipper back on. This is depth gauge. There we go. Now he's ready to be put. Almost ready. You have to have a lot of patience with these guys. They're a lot of fun, but you do need a lot of patience, especially because you always have to be so careful that you're preserving these items and not destroying them. Unfortunately, I have to admit that I have received some items that I've accidentally destroyed, and it just killed me because it's like, no. Somebody went to so much trouble to preserve these for so long, and then it gets in my arms and I make a mistake and I hurt them. Briefly, just give you a look at what's here. On this side here, you have the new G.I. Joe, which are G.I. Joes that were from the 70s, and they were made by Takara in Japan. Later on, Joes, I put these in the wrong order, these should have been here. These are later Joes, these are from the early 80s. There's a combination here of Combat Joe and also Action Man made for the Japanese market. A very different Action Man than made for the UK market. This particular figure here is the figure that goes in the Godzilla suit. He's one of my favorites. Then what Takara did was, after they did the military line for a while, and they did some sports figures like the boxer and the baseball player, the karate guy with, I love the special, I can't remember the name of them, they've got a special name, those shoes. Then they went to a more of a sci-fi line, and they made so the same figure, the same Hasbro bodies, but with the special Takara Japanese head. And they had all sorts, based on sci-fi TV series of the time. Also, another note, the Japanese head is very, very different. It's sort of more an anime head than the US one, and there are two distinct ones. This is the Joe head, and then this is the bad guy head that you'll find in the German uniforms. The Joe head also came flocked or not flocked. Here are the more of the cyborg line in with some of their outfits on them, and these are they in their robotic form. And their arms came off, and they had you could take their arms off and put on special attachments. They also made, besides the adult cyborg figure, they also made a boy cyborg figure. And then Denny's Fisher, a company in Britain, later on got the license to use the boy mold with a smaller head. They turned it into an adult, and they had their own line of adult small figures. And then also the cyborgs also had animals that were robotic, and then they had outfits. This one here is a dog. I got that one because it looks like a wolf, the Snake Eyes wolf, and I thought that was kind of neat. But they all sorts of different. They could turn into all sorts of different animals based on the costume they have on them. Okay, these are from here on out. These are all Action Man from the UK, and I'm sorry I didn't dust them as well as I should have. the Action Man, as you know, ran for a long time, from 1966 to 1984, and so you get everything from the early painted heads, just like very very similar to the U.S. ones, all the way through the more adventurer ones, and into the, let me see if I can find, these are the later ones with the eagle eyes. And see, is there anything special to point out? I guess this is the early judo guy, and then this is the later. I guess he's actually karate. I think that one's judo, that one's karate. Of course, you have the cricket, and the 3 different jackets for the early mountain adventurer, and the UN figure, the Africa Corps figure, the SAS figures. Some of the SAS figures are really, really awesome, and when you put them all together, they make a really nice band. Here are some more figures. I think all the ones on the island here are also from the UK. I didn't have enough room to put them on the counters over here. There's a variety from different eras. The Red Devil. This is the late. That's okay. I guess that's also, I have that one's in eagle eyes. Let's see if there's anything particular note. Mountain and Arctic, which was remade into the Action Force line. Of course, they also had the Indians. So they also had the U.S. cavalry, and I can't remember his names. Why did I just Rom? That's right, Rom. In the U.S., Rom was released by Kenner and was not at all part of the G.I. Joe line. However, when it was released in the UK, it was released under the Action Man banner. And then here we have, oh, I know, I just wanted to point this out. Again, here's another example of the rubber that really, really can deteriorate with time. When I put this figure together about 5 or 6 years ago, this was an absolutely gorgeous, brand new blue rubber sea vest. And it has not been in the elements, it has not been in heat, it hasn't been in the sun, and yet it's deteriorated badly. You've got to be careful of your rubber, of the rubber that you buy, because even if you buy it in pristine condition, it can deteriorate fast. And I still don't know what the perfect solution is to keep them good. Some of mine are just in absolutely brilliant shape, and others deteriorate like that as far as I know, were in the exact same condition. And what I did was I built each case to resemble, or to at least I was inspired by the 3 3/4 inch Action Man card back. And so what I did was I found the 12 inch, these are obviously the 3 3/4 inch ones that you see here. And when Palitoy started their Action Force line, the very first year that they made the figures, what they did was essentially they took the 12 inch figures and just miniaturized them. And so they really, really stuck very, very closely to the feel and the style of the older 12 inch Joes and Action Man. So that's what I wanted to demonstrate. I wanted to demonstrate that one-to-one correspondence, which is just so obvious and so exciting for me when I discovered it. And on this side here, you have these are actual outfits. Well, this one here is a little bit of a put together. This vest here was never really an Action Man vest. This was a G.I. Joe vest that I happened to put on that Red Devil figure. And over here, some of these are actual figures. These are the way they actually were marketed, and these I sort of fudged a little bit. Well, that one's real. This is a figure from France. And what I did was I took actual, this one is also real, that one's real. Well, actually most of them are, but these two are not. By not real, what I mean is the outfits are genuine vintage, but what I did was I put different pieces together from different outfits to sort of try to, as close as possible, well, not really, but resemble the Red Shadow and Baron. This is also the SAS parachute figure, but in general, this was just sort of a fun way to show that the 3 3/4 inch figures that were inspired by the 12 inch figures.